Hello, welcome back to Amateur Podcast. I'm your host, Attia, and with me here is...
Nico. I'm Nico.
Okay, Nico. So, what is a celebrity couple that, when you first heard about them, made you do a hardcore double take and go, what? They know each other? What? They make no sense together.
Honestly, Nick Cannon and Mariah Carey.
That's a good one.
I'm like, what? They were married?
I tend to forget that Nick Cannon has had actual relationships and not just like 9 baby mamas or something like that.
Yeah, and for me too, because I grew up in the 90s, and he was on Nickelodeon. He was like the host of everything. He was on All That, which was like Nickelodeon's kind of kid version of Saturday Night Live, right? And so it was just like, it's like, what? Mariah?
What was so like shocking about it?
Because they just seemed to be in different dimensions, and somehow they found each other and got together.
Was he like, because she was some kind of mainstream musician, that's why?
And she's so talented, but she's such a diva.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Nick Cannon? Because he was like the Ryan Seacrest of Nickelodeon.
I'm pretty sure he still thinks he's that, so it shows. It's very apparent that he still thinks he's just that.
Yeah, I don't think Ryan Seacrest has as many baby mamas as Nick Cannon does. What about you?
Oh, Nico, what do I even tell you?
I think I know where this is going.
Look, I know we already did an episode about Taylor Swift and Joe Alwyn. And I honestly didn't want to do this episode because it's kind of hard because I am a Swiftie. And I'm just like dealing with a lot of inner turmoil at the moment with a lot of Swifties that are at the moment either going to the Eras Tour, have been to the Eras Tour, just how much money it costs. There's a tour, right? And to just see what is going on between her and Matty Healy and just the person that Matty Healy is. First of all, when people were like, oh, they're dating, I was like, that makes no sense. That's such a... that's so fake. Like somebody just made that up, right?
Right.
And then you see him at like a bunch of her concerts and then meeting her parents and then coming on stage with Phoebe Bridgers, and then like you see him and her like holding hands in New York City, and then you are seeing him basically low-key doing the walk of shame from her apartment. So I'm like, okay, I hate to say it, but they are dating, right? Hey guys, this is Future Attia. As I was editing this episode, there was news that Matty Healy and Taylor Swift have now broken up. We recorded this episode before this happened, but I still think this is an important episode to put out because we truly dive into the basis of performative feminism and activism and what that means when it comes from your favorite celebrity, someone as powerful as Taylor Swift. While that relationship has ended, it does not take away from the events that transpired and how Taylor Swift, with all her power, reacted, what it means to have that kind of power and call yourself a feminist while partaking in actions or choosing to associate with people that are notoriously misogynistic. So we hope you enjoy this episode regardless. Okay, now back to the episode. See, this is the problem, right? Like, I just feel like in, what was it, 2019, 2018, wherever like the whole Kanye and Taylor thing happened, right? And after that, she did the whole rebranding about like, oh, I care about gay rights, and I care about people of color, and I care about all these woke stuff. And before that, her image was like basically that she toes the line between either or, like left or right, based on what is convenient for her. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, a lot of like white supremacist groups had her as their ideal image of a woman. And she never, until she was that in after Reputation, until Miss Americana came out, she never actually spoke out against it. But also, I guess I gave her leeway because she was underage and she was in her early 20s. She was in her early 20s, and before when she became a superstar, she was like 14 or whatever, right? So now she rebranded herself, and like she's like, she's like doing like You Need to Calm Down, which is a music video about like LGBTQ, and then and then there's also rumors about her like dating Karlie Kloss, and a lot of people believe that she is like a closeted bi person, and that lore itself has like just taken off over the past years, and she has like hinted at it many times. Like there's a lot of like Carly references in her songs and music videos or whatever. So this just comes, I think, like when this happened, when the news of Matty and her dating kind of like broke a facade. It's just like the facade of who Taylor Swift is, kind of, for me. And I'm just like, I just feel like I'm just dealing with the emotions of that. I'm like,
you're dealing with grief and loss.
no, I'm not. Like, imagine that. That was I saw on Reddit, somebody was like, guys, mental health check. How are we all feeling about Matty and Taylor? And some people were like, okay, my mental health is not based on Taylor and Matty Healy. I wouldn't say grief and loss, but it's just like, it just doesn't belong in the same universe. It's like dissonance, right?
Yeah.
You have this idea of somebody that you're like basically your celebrity idol or whatever, and you're like, oh, they don't believe in these kind of stuff, but then they associate themselves with a man that has said outlandish shit about women, and especially women of color, and it's just like, okay, if you are saying that you don't support these things, which she hasn't doubled down on recently, because people are not even asking her to be like, people are not trying to hold her accountable for his actions, which I think a lot of people that are supporting her at the moment, they're like, oh, she's not responsible for Matty's action. That's not what anyone is saying. It's just like, tell us that you don't support the things that he's saying. Yeah. Which is...
reassure us.
Yeah.
That this wasn't just like a marketing or PR.
Yeah, like you didn't just sell us a bunch of rainbow t-shirts and... corporate pride, and then... or like, sell us your merch and your tickets and everything, and now secretly behind closed doors you believe in something completely opposite, which is, if you do, sure, but be upfront about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's not the first celebrity to toe that line, and a very famous example is Michael Jordan. Yeah. So he's from North Carolina, and there was this big election going on in North Carolina, and basically people wanted him to come out and support the Democratic person who was running. I don't know if this was a Senate race or a governor. It was a big race in North Carolina. And he famously said, right, well, Republicans buy shoes too. Okay, so he did not endorse that candidate. Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly.
Taylor has endorsed a lot of Democratic candidates in, I think, Tennessee and stuff. So that's what's confusing about it, right? It's just, I think it might even be a dissonance in her own mind, and it's a bigger conversation about white feminism, right? For sure. First, let's talk about like what happened. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you a backstory.
You're gonna have to, because I've never heard of Ice Spice or Matty Healy until this whole thing blew up, and everything I've learned has been against my will. So
same. Everything I've learned about Matty Healy has been against my will, but he's just like, he's just like an ick of a human. I don't understand how anyone could like look at that man and be like, that's my man. Like, like you're proud of that. That's your man. That's mine. Like,
you can have him. He's
you
all yours.
So, obviously Taylor and Matty are reported to be dating, allegedly. Even if they aren't, they are seen together 24/7. Yeah. She has been holding his hand. He has been to her apartment. Whatever. So they've been pictured together all over the place. And then once this news broke out, there came to light a podcast episode that was taken down by Spotify because it was too offensive, where Matty Healy is basically being extremely misogynistic and racist against Ice Spice.
I didn't know Spotify took down the episode, which is crazy because Spotify refuses to take down the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. The number one like podcaster on Spotify is Joe Rogan. Yeah. And the fact that Spotify took down that episode should tell you what you need to know. And I'm not going to repeat all the things he said. You can go read it. And it's embarrassing for me to even say those things, what he said. So with this chest about, basically he was just said like a bunch of like racial stuff about her and call her, and then like start imitating a bunch of like different accents. I think it was like Japanese accents.
Like Asian accents.
Asian accents.
He was using Asian like slurs basically to describe Ice Spice.
Yeah. And she's Dominican, so I don't understand how that, whatever. But okay. And that rubbed people the wrong way, and they're like, hey, what the hell, why would he say, and this is not the first time he's done such a thing, right? Like there's viral videos of him, like his quote unquote humor is not palatable. Like if your humor is saying racist jokes and slurs, and that you think that's what makes you funny, then I hate to break it to you, you're not funny. Especially, like, I mean, if you're like a person of color and you make those kind of jokes, right? If you make like racist jokes or whatever, you just have fucking weird humor, right? You're like, okay. But if you're like white and you think you can make like these kind of jokes and be like, but you don't get my humor, like, what is the end goal? What is your point? Like,
It's also like people saying really mean and hurtful things and then being like, oh, well, I was just joking. And it's like, okay, that's not like,
yeah.
you can't hide behind that. That doesn't change anything.
And well, a lot of comments I've seen were like, you guys are taking what he said out of context. You guys take what his humor is out of context. And I've tried to find what the context is, and I can't. There's this one part, like, in his concert where he does the Nazi salute, and it's supposed to be satirical and about Kanye's politics, but also, like, is Matty Healy black to be making this kind of jokes? Like, no. Like, okay. I just don't get it. I don't get how that's funny. I don't get how, I guess I don't get how he thinks that's his place, you know?
Yeah.
Like, who is he? Does he think he's a part of the club, of like the BIPOC club, that he can make these kind of jokes? Like, who is he?
I also like, I've read some like comments here and there, and he uses a lot of big words to describe himself and his sense of humor. And it's like,
And yet he's not funny.
But also I'm like, I don't think you know what that means. I don't think you're using that word correctly, and you're just like, it's like the therapy.
You know who he reminds me of?
Right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. It's like when I was in high school and you go to school and there's always, it's like, first of all, it's always fucking 8 a.m. when these people start the shit. Like, it's like, okay, why are you so pressed about this? It's like, oh, there's always some random little boy that is just like for me, for example, there's this kid that would come up to me and say like Nazi slurs at me to bully me or whatever. It was just confusing, and he thought he was really, really funny saying those things, and he would say like really like outlandish shit to like just for attention, right? And that's who he reminds me of. It's like those kids in school that are so insecure about themselves that they think like maybe like them saying that kind of thing gives them attention, or it makes them funny.
It is very attention seeking, isn't it? Yeah. And it's like,
because what does Ice Spice have to do with him?
It's like, you know, there was an era, I don't know if it still exists now, but when I was a teenager, like, and I had this kind of sense of humor too, but like a lot of like teens at the time were like, oh, well, if you can't make fun of everything, then you can't make fun of anything. And we were like little edgelords, like, you know, and there were Tumblr pages dedicated to like offensive jokes and stuff like that. And that's what he's reminding me of. He's reminding me of like basically people who like say really offensive things, think they're being very edgy, think they're being like smarter than everyone else, but you're really just not funny. And you don't know how to be funny.
$100, I bet he would call me a terrorist if him and I went to high school together.
He would probably tell you. You know, he has said really, I did see this thread where he was saying things about like Islam and ISIS, and this person took a lot of time out to kind of like explain to him like why he was wrong, why ISIS is actually like worse for Muslims and it has nothing to do with Islam. And then he later said, like, no, I didn't read anything that she wrote. And it's like, so you just want to say these things. Yeah.
So let's picture all of that. And then he said a lot of terrible, horrible things about black women, how he loves to watch quote unquote porn, anything that rhymes with that, about degrading and abusing black women. And then just talking like that about Ice Spice, it just shows that maybe he's not willing to accept it, but it does come off as him hating black women.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other conclusion to...
Yeah, and then Taylor, on the other hand, she does all these things where, like, oh, she in her music video, she had a trans man playing her lover. And then she had, like, all of her backup dancers are, like, people of color. And then she does, like, all these, like, things for LGBTQ. But then you go on, turn your back when it's, like, convenient And that's what is so like confusing, right?
Well,
So
because
it's
what she's doing is performative. That it cost her nothing.
like, that hurts me.
And well, it's too bad. I'm telling you, like, it's performative, right? When it
Yeah.
costs someone nothing to do it, and then when it would cost you something to
Yeah.
stand up for it and you don't do it, that's when you know that this person is performative. She gets all the praise for doing all these small things that literally cost her nothing.
Yeah.
But then when it comes down to it, her choice of men who she's dating.
Yeah. And I think what I think is really sad is like, first of all, her audience demographic is basically white women, right? And there are only like a few people of color that are like into her, mostly of it's women. And what I've seen ever since this has happened, all the like the white female Swifties are just like, oh my gosh, she can do whatever she wants, blah blah blah, and like basically dismissing anyone that says anything to her about like, hey, how you your quote unquote boyfriend is literally saying racially insensitive, racist, homophobic, derogatory things. Are you going to say something? And even like, they're like, oh, what are you guys having a parasocial relationship with her? It's not that. It's just the fact to just reassure your fans that you're not a racist is not a big ask. I'm sorry. Like, am I crazy? Like,
So I think a part of it is like, I know they're different, but let me bring it back to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan never did anything that was political ever. And at the time, it was acceptable. People were actually like, no, celebrities, shut up and dribble. Just stay in your lane or whatever. But when you put yourself out there and make yourself look like, you know, you care about these issues.
yeah.
You know, and you really don't, you kind of put yourself in a corner. You know what I mean? Like, Michael Jordan never said like anything political at all in his career. And then Taylor made it a big deal in her documentary to show how badly she wanted to speak out and support.
She was like crying in her documentary.
And her mean team were like, no, it'll cost you too much. And she's like, oh.
I feel so crazy that I'm literally saying this about Taylor Swift because I love Taylor Swift, and it's just like my mind is just blown. Like the dissonance in my head is insane. Like I'm just like, Taylor Swift, I love her music, is just so like amazing and I love it, and then Taylor Swift is doing this. It's just like, it's just proof that every like relationship you have with celebrity is parasocial and it's not real. It's like, you know, it's just in your head. It's something they've told you. You don't know who they are for real.
For sure. And so like if she never said anything, right, then
I wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah. No one would, because it's like, well, she never did these things, right?
Then she might be like, you know, accused of like not speaking out, but that's different than being like, you, after you've said that you're gonna stand by us, you are like standing by this person that has willingly doubled down on the things he says about people of color, and you don't seem to see that as a problem. Like, why are you so comfortable being seen with him? Why are you so comfortable parading him? You know? So anyways, this all happened, and then suddenly, I guess what rubbed me the wrong way was to banded this whole PR crisis was a lovely little package that was Karma Remix with Ice Spice. I'll give Ice Spice this. Like, good for you, girl. Like, get your bag, okay?
Yeah.
So she released this new CD where it's like there's 3 new songs, and there's one of them is the Karma Remix, and Ice Spice is on it with her, with Taylor Swift. So she got this song on the album. Then she got a music video with Taylor Swift, Ice Spice did, and then Taylor Swift also brought her on stage, but she never acknowledged like what happened, right? And her team is basically saying, no, this was already in the works. This has been like recorded months before this incident. It has nothing to do with the Matty Healy situation. What do you think about that?
Is PR really that transparent? I always like took her and her team to be like super savvy, but ever since like that interview came out where Matty Healy talked about watching, you know, pornographic materials that's abusive to women of color, then suddenly there's a slew of like articles about her and him being in love and this and that, and they're happy. And then this whole Ice Spice thing comes out, and then now, oh, her and Ice Spice are collaborating, and I'm like, is has it always been that obvious and we've just always been dumb, or is she falling apart? Like, because this is clearly a PR thing. I don't think this is genuine.
Yeah, I mean, the song is not good, first of all. But I just don't understand how that would be the luck of the gods that you were already working on such a convenient song with a TikTok musician that you probably never even heard of before your
Never heard
supposed
of her.
boyfriend
Yeah.
like start shit talking her. I don't know. I don't believe it. And there's this person on TikTok that they do like investigative stuff, right? Which is basically the nail theory. Do you know what nail theory is?
No.
So what they do is like they this is how they found out that Kylie Jenner was pregnant. They basically Kylie Jenner was like posting older pictures to hide her pregnancy, right? And people on the internet, they're like, the nail polish she's wearing, she was wearing that nail color the year before and during this time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
People are like,
And it was true. She was actually hiding and she was actually pregnant. And it was like, that's how they found out. So they did nail theory with like, so Ice Spice and Taylor like posted a picture of like, oh, back when we were in the studio, like, you know, when we recorded the song. And the narrative has been that this song was recorded before the podcast episode, which was February. And lo and behold, in the picture, Ice Spice is wearing the nail color that on her Instagram she was wearing in March, which was after the podcast. I know I sound crazy, but I thought that was hilarious. TikTok is insane.
oh my God. But that's the thing. It's also kind of like, do you think we're stupid? Like celebrities, like I'm asking celebrities, do you think the general public is just dumb? And that we will like, because here's what I'm realizing is that celebrities are dumb and they make very, very silly mistakes all the time.
Out of touch, you know. They just don't think.
Yeah.
They live in this like extremely rich bubble that, and then they want to be also relatable, and then they do things to seem relatable, but they're not. And then when it doesn't work, sometimes they're just confused why the formula didn't work, and that's how I feel about this whole thing at the moment.
And so I want to touch on something because some people have been saying like, you know, Taylor, people have been pulling the sexism card a lot. Like, I've seen this
Oh my God, did
online.
you see the Rolling Stone article?
No.
Oh my God, this is so fucking annoying. So, Rolling Stone and Taylor's team have a really good relationship. So, I'm gonna pull up the article. One second.
I read was it Rolling Stone or Variety that wrote something about the idol, and I couldn't get enough of that. That was fun to read.
So,
and also horrifying.
4 days ago, Rolling Stone, this is the headline. We wouldn't be having this conversation if Taylor Swift was a man.
Shut up. Shut up.
And guess who wrote this article? Angie Martocchio. And what does Angie Martocchio look like?
A white woman?
Mm-hmm. You know what she said in the article? She's like, we all have dated a guy like that. And it would be just holding her to another standard just because she's a woman just because who she chooses to spend her time with, keyword, chooses. She just because she chooses to spend her time with these kind of men doesn't mean we should judge her for it because we all have done it. I'm like, Angie, maybe you have done it. I have never done that. I'm sorry to tell you.
I've never spent. I mean, no, I push back on that
like,
a lot. No.
What is going on?
Have women had to had like maybe a messy rebound or like a hookup or a very brief fling where we're like, oh yeah, maybe shouldn't have done that with this guy.
Yeah,
but
she said basically if Taylor Swift was a man, then she would be allowed to have a sleazeball of a summer and no one would bat an eye and blah, blah. I'm like, this is literally, that just shows how tone deaf this is.
Yeah.
Because you don't even understand what people are asking. It's not even that, oh my God, no one's letting her have a rebound. It's like, your rebound is racist. Like, and you're parading him around. Like, you know, denial is the river in Egypt.
But also, here's the thing, like, has anyone ever heard of intersectional feminism? Like,
yeah, I think that's the problem, right?
That's
like,
what's lost on people.
This is not a one-off thing, right?
Yeah.
It's Taylor Swift has been unfortunately accused of being a white feminist.
What else could she be?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But then she tries to not be that, right? Like, which is like, and there's nothing wrong with being a feminist and being white. let's get that out of the way. The problem is white feminism, the phrase white feminism is basically meaning that you are only concerned with situations or problems or concepts that affect white women or specifically you only, right? And that's the thing, right? Like the whole her and Kanye thing. When Kanye called her up when she was whatever, 22, whatever, and it was Kanye and Kim calling her up and saying, hey, I'm writing this song about you. This is the lyrics. The lyrics is, I think me and Taylor might still have sex. And at that time, the song wasn't complete. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I thought it was going to be a lot meaner than that. I think I'm okay with that. Just don't write anything mean about me because, you know, like, and also I don't want, you know, the feminists, they're going to come after you. Don't, like, I don't really want that. The feminists are going to say, I'm okay with it, but, you know, the feminists. That's what she said in the phone call. And obviously he didn't say, like, the I made the bitch famous part, right? Maybe it was later added on. I also think there was just like standard miscommunication there because I think to Kanye's, I think from I'm trying to see his, Kanye's not all there. Let's just get that out of the way. Kanye's not all there.
But he also probably didn't think that calling Taylor the B word, like, would have.
I don't think Kanye thinks, Nico.
No, but I mean, for example, if it were me, if someone were like, you know, made that line, I don't know, I'm not Taylor, right? But if someone calls me the B word, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't care. Go ahead.
Anyways, the point
doesn't kill me.
The point is the fact that he calls her up and she's obviously like verbally uncomfortable, but she's not really saying like, oh, don't do it at all. She's like, write whatever you want. And I think because he's just Kanye and he's just like, you know, cannot read a situation, he's just like, great, I have a free for all, right? To him, he's like, she gave him her permission. That's what I think. That's my personal opinion of what I think happened. And I mean, this was Kanye before Kanye went on a hate train on everybody, but
yeah.
So 2016 Kanye, right? And then when she heard the song, she was upset that he said I made the bitch famous, especially the word bitch, and like saying that he took control of her narrative about her, you know, her career. Sure, fair, I guess. But then how did Matty Healy not say so many worse things? Misogynistic things about Ice Spice. If you're upset about Kanye calling you the B word because it's misogynistic, how are you not upset about what Matty Healy has said about all women, including herself? He said a bunch of shit about her in like what 2015 or something, where he's like, "Oh, dating Taylor Swift would be so emasculating because she's like, you know, like I don't want to like bow down to a woman like that. Like she's too basically saying she's too dominant or whatever." And so not only he's been sexist towards you, he's been sexist and racist towards other women. So what happened to like the whole like feminist train? I don't get it. Like
it doesn't apply to Ice Spice and it doesn't apply to Taylor's personal situation with Matty Healy. But it certainly, I mean, and here's the thing. It's easy to make Kanye a villain. It was easy for her to do that because he already
was a villain, Loki.
he already was. And then they already had a history. He interrupted her at the VMAs when she was really young, you know, and whatever. And so she played into that. And so made it, and then turned that whole thing into like he tried to take credit for my hard work. And it's like, I think it was just a line and he just was saying things, and that's who he is. That's what like hip hop is. Like it wasn't super dissy towards her, in my opinion, right?
I mean, to be fair, she can be mad about that. Sure, that was misogynistic, but then like if you're gonna, you should just like, you know, double down on it when it comes to other women too. And it's just not about you. That's what bothered me about her. It's just like it seemed like it was just only when it's about her. You know,
it's sexist when it's about her. Right.
And then so that's what I don't get. Like, how are you parading somebody like that? And that's, I think I'm just like so used to like Joe Alwyn for the past 7 years that he's just so normal. Like, you know, he doesn't do anything. He's just, you know,
everyone sure misses Joe Alwyn right now.
I know. It's like, you remember in the other episode I was kind of low-key hating on him, and I'm like, can he come back?
Please, Joe. We're sorry.
We're sorry, Joe. We won't call you boring or poor anymore. Please come back.
That guy was never poor, was he?
there was like an ongoing joke that Taylor like wrote a bunch of songs that basically like the intention were like, oh, I like shiny things, but I'll marry you with paper rings. And the other song was like, all the boys in their fancy cars never took me where you took me, basically saying that he doesn't have fancy cars, something like that. So it was a running joke between like Swifties that Joe Alwyn is poor and Taylor still loves him. So it was just like,
well, he certainly won the breakup. He got a 6-figure check and a Grammy, and he's coming out of this looking like a very
I have opinions about the Grammy. I don't. This is just my opinion based on facts that I made up, but
I'm sorry, everyone.
But that makes no sense. How did he write that song with her? Like that he literally has never like.
He inspired her.
No, she said he wrote the whole chorus in the shower. He was just singing it. I don't think that's true. First of all.
No, you don't trust
that's
anything
just
Taylor
a segue,
tells you.
But I don't think that's real. Sorry, Joe. I am glad you have the Grammy, but I don't believe that you're William Bowery. But okay, whatever.
Yeah, but basically, what it all looks like to me is that Taylor tries to capitalize on whatever is trending right now, and after
that makes me so sad.
Yeah,
I love
sorry,
Taylor
but
Swift.
she's a celebrity, right?
No,
We
I
have
thought she's
times-
my friend.
No, you thought wrong.
She makes cookies for her fans and invites them over.
That's not true. She probably did that once, and that's become like an urban myth among Swifties.
But I feel like if I'm good enough, she'll invite me to her house.
Well, certainly not now after this podcast episode.
No! No, we cannot release this. She can still make amends with me. Like, she just needs to say sorry and I'll go to her house.
That's it?
Yeah, I can sell my soul real fast. If Ice Spice gets a bag, why can't I get a bag?
Why would you need to get a bag?
I don't know. I guess that is selfish anyways.
Do you want Matty Healy to say
No.
mean and racist things about you?
Well, if it means like become a millionaire,
Jesus,
maybe
you're a
once,
sellout.
that's okay. Would you not? Like if somebody was like racist against you and they said, but in return you're gonna be a millionaire?
Sure, why not?
See? It wouldn't be like new. Like I've dealt with that before, but I've never been a millionaire before. Like
Never been paid for it.
I've never been paid for it. This episode is unhinged.
Just to go back to the feminism thing, I think one, I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to be a feminist, but I do think that if you know, especially if you're a celebrity, and I know wokeness is like it's trendy right now. It's marketable. We see it. Like corporations are putting out Pride gear.
Month.
Yeah, right? And like, you know, so everyone's doing it, and then everyone like it's all performative. Everyone's like, you know, in our own social circles, like, oh, happy Pride on their Instagram stories, on their Facebook, whatever. And then they probably don't even think about it for the rest of the month, right? And that's like, whatever, that's fine. But if you are trying to become, or you were this vocal person about like social justice issues and like all these things, like you can't just sit on your laurels and be like, oh my God, why is everyone attacking my boyfriend and me? This is sexism. No, it's you not being consistent.
Also, you're not. I feel like they're not playing the sexist card right, because how's that sexism? Like saying that because if she was a man and she was dating somebody racist, then nobody would say anything. I don't think that's true. We need to give society credit where it's due, because I don't think anyone is sitting there like, oh, this man is dating like somebody. If anything, like people are very, I think, equal about that part, where it's just like, okay, the person you're dating is like trash. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, Dylan O'Brien, his girlfriend, I think her name is Rachel. So I think I mentioned in a few episodes back that like someone went through her Twitter, found that she used the N-word, and basically she had to release this like whole apology, right?
Or like when Chrissy Teigen was like bullying, what's that? The
Courtney Stodden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then nobody was like, oh my God, like nobody was to John Legend to give him a pass. Everybody was like, why is your wife saying stuff like that? You know?
No one's thrilled that Dylan is dating this Rachel person.
Yeah.
Right? When their picture comes up on like the subreddits that I follow, it's like, there's Dylan O'Brien and his racist girlfriend, Rachel, right?
Yeah.
Like, so no one is like, no one is attacking Taylor for being with Matt. They're just kind of like, he's disgusting. How? It's the same conversation that people are saying, like, how can John Legend be married to someone like Chrissy Teigen, and how can Dylan be with the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing the sexism.
I just don't see, I don't see the sexism remark being true. I think it's just like grasping at straws. And I think her team was like, oh yeah, write that. If she was like, man, this would not be a problem. Like, please be fucking for real. Like, for once, be serious, please.
I mean, basically Taylor Swift has, she's been through hard times for being a woman in general, but I mean, white women.
But do you remember, like, that's the thing. She's been accused of stuff like this, and I've, like, tried to, like, look past it, and I have. Like, when Nicki Minaj tweeted, like, the reason.
Oh yeah,
that
Anaconda.
That she's like, the reason, like, black women never get, like, any, like, best music awards or something like that is because, like, they're usually, like, erased from award shows, and their spot is taken by, like, just like skinny white girls, whatever, right? Like something like along that line. And then she took it upon herself to be like, well, maybe have you ever thought like a man took your spot instead? And I've always loved you, Nikki, but next time when I win, you're more than welcome to come on stage with me. Like, BFFR. Please, Taylor, stop it. Stop it. And then Nikki was like, girl, I wasn't even talking about you. What are you talking about? Like, she's like, all love. And they're like, oh, all love. But it's stuff like that. It's like tone deaf, right?
Yeah.
And like, do you know about the whole Ginny and Georgia thing? Do you know? That's a show called Ginny and Georgia.
Thank you. No, I didn't.
So there's this Netflix show called Ginny and Georgia. And this happened recently. By recently, I mean like maybe 2020. There was a line in the whole show. There was one line about Taylor Swift. This like a series. This is like a TV show. It's not like a reality TV. It's an actual scripted TV show.
Yeah.
And it's a Netflix original. And it was like, oh, like the daughters, I think, like you go through men faster than Taylor Swift, something like that. And she tweeted Taylor Swift about how that was sexist, and like she was watching Ginny Georgia, and how could Netflix after Miss Americana can do that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, she is so
you're above criticism. You're above like commentary.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, something as obscure as that, she was really fast to jump at it, right? And be like, hey, don't say that about women, whatever, right? Specifically me, I guess. But then, like, how, again, this girl comes back to the same thing. How is she okay with Matty Healy saying those things about Ice Spice? And to make things even worse, like, she did all this, like, PR move where it's like, make a song with Ice Spice, make a music video with Ice Spice, and then bring her on stage. And you know what Matty Healy did the next day?
What?
Oh my God, I'm gonna read it to you. So, when Matty Healy, after this whole shebang that Taylor Swift and her PR team tried to do and cover this whole situation, be like, hey, look, me and Ice Spice are great. We're all friends. It's all, like, forgiven, fun, and jokes. Don't worry about it, guys, right? So Mr. Matty Healy goes, and make matters worse, he's like, he goes to New Yorkers and he said, I'm genuinely sorry if I upset her because I love her, right? And then they were talking about, like, hey, the controversy about the podcast. You said all these things about Ice Spice, like, and there has been a backlash. What do you feel about that? And he goes, it doesn't actually matter. Nobody's sitting there at night slumped at their computer and their boyfriend comes over and goes, what's wrong, darling? And they go, it's just this thing with Matty Healy. That just doesn't happen. And the person that was, like, interviewing them, and they're like, okay, well, I think it does matter to say, when people that have power say those kind of things. And I think people are upset. I think people generally are having this discourse. And he's like, well, if it does, you're either deluded or you are, sorry, a liar. You're either lying that you're hurt or you're a bit mental for being hurt. It's just people going, oh, there's a bad thing over there. Let me get as close to it as possible so you can see how good I am. And I kind of want them to do that because they're demonstrating something so base level.
It's the audacity for me. It's like,
you're
deluded or you're a liar.
You're mental.
And I actually want you to do this to prove.
He's like, this was my plan all along.
How basic you are.
My favorite is the fact that it's very obvious that Ice Spice and Taylor Swift have, like, ironclad NDAs, right? And they're not talking about this shit. And they're like, there's probably like some kind of settlement because of the songs or something, and they are like, we're not gonna talk about this, make these songs, make profit both of us, and like move our ways, right? Why did they not put him on an NDA?
He really needs to be
He
on
really
one.
needs to be on an NDA. Tree Payne, please get that man on an NDA. Tree Payne is Taylor Swift's PR person. I'm like, you need to get that man an NDA. He needs to stop talking.
The only deluded and mental person is
like,
him.
He's like 34, 35 years old and talks like this. Like,
take responsibility for what you've said. Take
or
responsibility.
if your girlfriend of like however many months is trying to like do this like crazy maneuver to cover up your ass, don't go the next day to New Yorker and like ruin the whole thing and double down on the things you've done and said. Like,
and that's what's crazy.
I'm so confused.
Is that Taylor Swift acts like she's a victim in so many situations, and I'm not saying she hasn't been in a couple, but I mean she has just as much power and money and success as a white man, and she plays the game as a white man. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just kind of like,
this makes me so sad.
Sorry, but celebrities are people and they make mistakes.
What if there's a big misunderstanding and they're not dating?
I don't think so.
I'm trying to make myself feel better.
Denial is not just a river in Egypt.
I guess. I mean, I think it's like, if anything, it has like opened a real discourse about white feminism, right? Like, what in its root, feminism was because white women didn't want black men to have voting rights, and that's how white women got voting rights, because they were like, hey, we don't want them to have it. And that has been ever since, something that has been ongoing. And it shows, and it's kind of sad that we still have to talk about this, that feminism hasn't really been like inclusive of all women.
Yeah, it hasn't.
For the most part.
And we see it. We see it play out with transphobia, right?
Yeah.
Today. Yeah, we see it play out.
And not just transphobia, even just like women of color or like just like any issue. I think like it's just like, I don't know. I think I think that's the reason a lot of people get put off by feminism or being able to call themselves feminists, is because the movement itself has really picked and choose on whose issues or whose problems or whose woes and whose like oppression they focus on.
Yeah.
And dismiss everybody else.
And I think too, another thing is it's all about proximity to power, right? It's never really about equal distribution of power. It's about how can I get closer to power. Think about that Rolling Stones title. It's like, if she was a man, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So basically, sometimes not all white feminists do, or feminists who are white do this, but it just comes out as like, I, as a white woman, should be able to act like a white man without
I think that's
any
exactly
kind of backlash.
That's exactly it. I think you like hit it on the nose. I think that's it. It's not really about white feminism in its core. It isn't really about like equality for all women. It's about like, and that's the backlash, right? That the white women want to be white men.
Yeah, it was the same discourse with Olivia Wilde and Don't Worry, Darling. Everyone, she just kept saying, if I was a male director, no one would be like harping on me about having relations with the cast. It was never like, yeah, it's wrong to behave unprofessionally, right? It was, if I was a man, if I was a white man, I could get away with this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not trying to like, be like, oh, white women don't have any problems or like they don't face sexism or anything. That's not, and if you're just like a white woman and you're like, why are you attacking me? That's not what I'm saying, right? It's just more about the concept of the basis of feminism, of how it started, and what it has become today, and why a lot of women don't feel included in it.
And I think too, you have, a bunch of white female celebrities, Taylor Swift, Emily Ratajkowski, Olivia Wilde, who are branding themselves as like, and other people have like accused Beyonce of watering down feminism as well, right? But you have like a lot of very powerful women, especially white women, who when they talk about feminism, really what I'm hearing is, I want to have all the power and privileges that a male has. And it's like, well, duh, yeah, we all would like to, right? Yeah. But you want proximity to power. You want power. You don't want other people to have power. That's what that sad is. Yeah.
Oh, this is low-key a sad episode.
Well, for our outro, when was the time that you felt the feminism leave your body?
Let's be real. The feminism will leave my body if a really rich man was like, yeah, let's sign a prenup because we should both have our own stuff. I'm like, no, no, I'm not a feminist. I'm so sorry. That's not happening. Feminism leaves my body if I have to ever change my own tire. Never. Never. Absolutely not. Feminism will leave my body if I have to take out the trash or if I have to do anything, honestly, anything, period. I'm so easy. I'm not a good host for this episode.
There's a book called Bad Feminist. I haven't read it. Yeah, but that's me too. I feel the feminism leave my body whenever my husband wants us to do yard work together.
Oh, absolutely not. I'm not going in the sun. Feminism leaves my body if anyone tells me to do labor in the sun. That's not a female thing. I'm sorry, I'm female. I don't do that.
Well, if you would like to email us times feminism left your body, please email us at amateurpopcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at amateur_popcast. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we upload our episodes on YouTube as well. Thanks for listening.